the Divorced Girl Smiling Podcast with your host, Jackie Pilosoff.
No one should have to go through a divorce feeling alone and isolated. The Divorced Girl Smiling Podcast is a production of Divorced Girl Smiling, where every show is 30 minutes aimed to empower you, help you feel validated and understood, and connect you with some of the best divorce professionals in the industry. So grab a cup of coffee or a glass of wine and start smiling as you join us right now for the Divorced Girl Smiling Podcast. Heard everywhere podcasts can be found and always at divorcedgirlsmiling.com. Before we get started, I want to tell you about two Divorced Girl Smiling trusted professionals who I think are wonderful. The first one is Sharon Oberst-DeFalla. Sharon is a divorce attorney in Connecticut. She's the founder of Oberst-DeFalla Law, and Sharon has been a divorce attorney since 1992. She enjoys helping her clients get divorced via mediation, and she's a great listener, a problem solver, and a dedicated divorce lawyer with a passion for helping people achieve fairness, peace of mind, and the best possible divorce outcome. I really trust Sharon. If you're looking for a divorce attorney in Connecticut, give her a call. Sharon can be found at oberstlaw.com or in the Trusted Professionals section of Divorced Girl Smiling. I also want to tell you about a really great mortgage lender named Phil Legelia. Phil is such a wonderful mortgage lender, and I'm going to tell you why. He's a great listener. He's got a great attitude. He's been doing this for 30 years, and he's just such a wonderful person. You will just be so happy every time you pick up the phone and it's Phil. That's all I have to say. If you are going through a divorce and you need a mortgage, or you're refinancing your house, or you're getting a new home, call Phil. You can find Phil on the website of North Shore Trust and Savings, and you can also find him in the Trusted Professionals section of Divorced Girl Smiling. You might be sick of it. You might be like, I can't do this anymore. But I truly believe still, but we're going to find out in a minute from an expert, that online dating is still the number one way people find love. I'm going to ask my guest that question in a minute. I think I know what she's going to say, but I can't be sure. But after she answers that question, my guest has 5 tips to being successful in online dating. And this may seem like an old topic, but it's not, because online dating is still really, really big. Is it or isn't it, Alyssa?
Yes, it sure is. As much as people want it to go away, it doesn't. It won't go away.
All right. So I usually introduce my guests first. So I'm going to introduce you, and then we'll talk more about that. My guest is Alyssa Deneen. She's an online dating coach, a personal stylist, and an author. Her company is Style My Profile, and Alyssa helps people with everything from putting their profile together to working with her if you're frustrated, to coming up with strategies to maximize your chances of finding love, if that's what you want. So, welcome, Alyssa.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So, I feel like people date online for different reasons. Tell me about that. Not everybody is looking for the love of their life.
No, I mean, I think definitely there are people out there looking for more casual, just companionship and that type of thing, somebody to go to dinner with, someone to go to a museum with. But I think the majority of people really are looking for love. Yeah.
I was hoping you'd say that, because very much I always say I'm pro marriage if you're with the right person and it's the right situation.
Mhm. Well, and also I think these relationships look different than they may have looked your first time around. I mean, I have a lot of couples that have met and choose not to live together, or, they live in different cities even, and they see each other on off weekends, I mean, it looks very different than in how it did maybe in your 20s or 30s.
Definitely. And a lot of people are looking for true love, but they don't want marriage. They just want
Mhm.
to be perpetually engaged, or
Mhm.
just committed to each other, but not
Yeah,
marriage. And I think
exactly.
there's nothing wrong with it. We get to figure out our own rules, and whatever makes you happy is what you should do.
Yes, exactly.
All right. So, first thing I want to know is when we said, there's different reasons for people dating. Don't you think there's a lot of people listening to this probably who are thinking, I just want to dip my toe back in. I'm not sure what I want yet, but for right now, I just want to try it out. And what advice do you have for those people?
Yeah, I mean, if you're new to online dating, I think that it can feel really daunting and scary, or not necessarily scary, but just kind of overwhelming and not really knowing where to begin. But really, it all starts with a strong profile, which really means really good photos. And when I say really good photos, I mean like photos that you've had taken for your dating profile, not necessarily professionally, but no cropping out your ex, no putting big hearts over your kids' faces. Have somebody take photos of you, a friend, just spend a couple of hours with you and taking photos of you for your dating.
All right. That's the first tip. So let's talk more about a strong profile. So, no pictures with the kids' faces blocked out, and no pictures with, like, you can see a guy's arm, part of his arm. So, are you
Yeah.
saying that you suggest that you get your girlfriend, you go outside to a really pretty background, you get a cute little outfit, you put on some makeup, and you have your own photo shoot?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's what I encourage a lot of my clients to do who don't want to hire a professional. I mean, a lot of people do hire professionals now, and that's fine too. And I think you'll see that more and more on dating profiles. It's not taboo like it used to be. It used to be kind of thought of as being a little desperate if you paid a professional for photos, and that's not the case anymore. People really do expect, they want you to have high quality photos where they can really see you and not look like it has filters on it and not look like, again, like you've cropped somebody out. And it's okay to have one photo with your children in it if you feel comfortable with that. You then have your children in it, and you don't
Alright, so
have faces.
what is the reason why we don't want children's faces X'd out or an arm of a boyfriend? What why? Why not?
Well, definitely the cropping out your ex, it's pretty obvious almost in every case. And I've seen a lot of it, so I can say that from experience. And then as far as your children being in the photo, I just think it looks sort of odd when you've blocked out your kids' faces. I mean, I think a lot of people kind of get like a little weirded out by that, and I think it's really just okay to just have your kids' faces if you are okay with that. Otherwise, just leave them out entirely. You know what I mean? I think it's
Yes.
whichever one, but I would not recommend having more than one photo of you and your kids in it, because I think that gives a message of, "I don't have much availability without my children."
And also it says, "They're my life and I have nothing else in my life. I'm just a mom." And just
Yeah,
a mom, I don't
or
say
just a
that
dad.
lightly,
Yeah,
being a
yeah.
mom is the best, but this is the advice I would always tell people is, when you go out on dates, you have to talk about yourself. You're not there to tell your date how awesome your kids are, but
Yes.
you can say they're awesome for, like, 2 minutes or less, but the rest of the date is about you and your life. Even if you're a stay-at-home mom and you're not even working, you can talk about what you used to do, what you've accomplished, what you
Or
enjoy
your
doing,
hobbies or yeah,
hobbies.
yeah.
So, that's a very, very good point. Alyssa, I wanna move on to what else about the profile that's important. So you wrote a compelling bio about yourself.
Yeah, I think a common mistake people make is just doing a really generic bio or answering prompts on Hinge in a really generic way, like one-word answers or "I love travel" or "I love going out to new restaurants." I mean, there's things that you see over and over and over again that are very cliche, and, and people are you have to remember that people have been maybe doing this for a long time and they're tired of seeing the same thing and they may just swipe left on you just because your bio is kind of boring and doesn't stand out. So really thinking about the things that are unique to you and what makes you stand out as an individual and why somebody would want to date you basically. So really
Okay, so
about your qualities.
Okay, so instead of I love travel, how about Paris is my favorite city? I traveled there a couple years ago and loved it. I also like traveling in the US. Blah, 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 blah. Is that what we're
Yeah, if you
talking
have
about?
yes, if you have the space to do all of that, but yeah, I mean, you can say and if you are, on something like Bumble or Hinge where there's not a lot of, not a lot of real estate to write much, you can just say something about your most recent travel. Just, my most recent trip was to Barcelona. I love the blah, blah, blah museum there. Just something more specific that somebody can go on, and
Right.
not just
And
the
then
word
and
travel.
then the other example I was gonna give is instead of I love going out to restaurants, I love Greek food. That's my thing.
Mhm. Mhm.
So, okay, we have to take a break and then we're going to talk about some really exciting things. You're listening to the Divorce Girl Smiling podcast. My name is Jackie Pilosoff. I'm your host. I'm here today with Alyssa Deneen, who is an online dating coach. She's an author and she's been doing this for several years. Met the love of her life online, so she walked the walk. And Alyssa and I are giving you tips to be successful in online dating. When we come back, we're going to talk about a couple more things. The first thing is Alyssa has this thing called the DIY profile kit, and she's offering it to you for 15% off if you mention Divorced Girl Smiling. We're going to talk about what's in the DIY profile kit, and then we're going to give you 4 more tips to being successful in online dating. We'll be right back. In a divorce, who keeps the dog? It might or might not surprise you to know that this is a huge issue in countless divorces, and the thought of losing your dog in a divorce can feel devastating, painful, and extremely stressful. And this is the issue that's driving Karis Nafty and her business, which is called Who Keeps the Dog. Karis has spent 25 years as a dog behavior specialist and the last several years being a pet custody mediator. So, talking with Karis, you can just feel her passion, her dedication to not only helping people through a divorce, which Karis went through a divorce, but also for the dog and for what's best for the family. So, Karis can help you figure out what to do with your dog in the divorce. She can help divorce professionals in a divorce, and she is also a speaker and an author of her book, Who Keeps the Dog, which is the same name. To learn more about Karis, go to whokeepsthedog.com. I also want to tell you about Sue Bruckner, holistic relationship coach and founder of Tribe Rising, a membership community for sensitive women. Now, let me tell you something. My entire life, I've heard the words from my family, "You're so sensitive." And what's so interesting is that I always took it to mean that there was something wrong with me that I needed to change. And then I met Sue. Sue Bruckner told me, I should say Sue Bruckner educated me. Highly sensitive people is a real thing. It's part of your brain makeup, and you're not just someone who needs to change. You're someone who needs to connect with other highly sensitive people and needs to learn how to celebrate your sensitivity and also deal with situations that might affect you. Sue has started this wonderful community called Tribe Rising. You can learn more about it on her website withintentioncoaching.com. And you can find both Sue and Karis in the Trusted Professional section of Divorced Girl Smiling. Welcome back to the Divorced Girl Smiling podcast. My name is Jackie Pilosoff, and I'm your host. I don't care what you say, online dating is still the number one way people are meeting. We know we're all back in person, COVID's over. Yes, there are many great ways to meet people, but online is still very, very strong. We are offering you 5 tips to being successful in online dating. My guest is Alyssa Deneen, and Alyssa is an online dating coach. She's an author of her best-selling book. Why am I blanking on the name? It was a great book, The
The
Art
art of
of
online dating.
Online Dating. Yes. And she's been doing this for several years. stylemyprofile.nyc.com is her website. Let's move on to the second tip to be successful in online dating, which is consistency. So, what does that mean?
So what that means is going on the apps regularly. I recommend every day, and I know to some people that sounds like, ugh, I don't want to have to go on, on the apps every day, but every day for just a few minutes, really like 10 to 15 minutes, just to answer messages or reach out to somebody. You know, really the consistency is key because the algorithm favors that. So then you'll be at the top of people's feed. So you just want to be a regular customer, basically.
Wow, that's so interesting. Because I was gonna say, what if you just decided to dedicate, like, 1 day a week to it and went on there for 30 minutes for or an hour? First of all, you're gonna get burned out, you're gonna be seeing all these messages, you're gonna get overwhelmed, you could completely swipe left on somebody you didn't mean to because you were just so overwhelmed that that one kinda just got past you, right?
Well, and also more importantly is that you want to be regularly on there so that you can respond to people in a timely way because you want the same in response from the other person. You want to respond, be responsive, and I always say within 24 hours is the best because you want them to do the same. Because if you think about it, if you wait 3 days because you haven't gone on the app and then you finally respond to someone's message, and that they then wait a few days, 3 or 4, then they respond to your message, and then you're waiting another 3. I mean, this is why people end up stuck on the apps. You have to be regularly on there to respond to people because ultimately you want to get off the app and in person. And I'll get to that too and later and one of the other
You're saying 5 to 10 minutes a day.
5 to 10 minutes a day is all you need, and you really don't want to do more than that because that is how you burn out.
Absolutely. Okay, next tip is follow through. So you're saying swiping and matching is the easy part, especially starting the conversation. Oh, no, you say it's starting the conversation is where people get stuck. Yeah, that's like
Yes.
awkward. So
Yeah,
tell me about
and
that.
so a couple of things. One is don't start off a conversation saying, "Hey," or "What are you up to this weekend?" or "How was your weekend?" That's another a lot of cliches that people have seen a lot. You really want to start off a conversation by pointing something out specifically about that person from their profile that you've read. So look through their profile and see, are they rock climbing? And, you want to ask them about that and the air. Where do you like to go rock climbing in the area? And then you want to get the conversation started by showing that you're interested and curious about that person. And hopefully they show the same curiosity back. But follow through is really, like I just said too, is just being responsive and having a dialogue back and forth, but making sure you end with a question. So each of you should be ending with a question. So you answer what they just asked you about, maybe say something more detailed about it. And then you say, how about you? What's your favorite activity to do on the weekend? Or, I'm just using that as an example. And then hopefully they answer that and give you some detail, and then they ask you something. So it really should be you don't wanna just end with a statement because then the other person feels like they're carrying the conversation. So you really with texting especially, you really do need to end with a question. Um, but ultimately, you only wanna do about 10 back and forths, and then you really want to move to the next level.
Okay, I want to tell my listeners that in Alyssa's DIY profile kit, there are a list of 40 irresistible icebreakers that lead to interesting, engaging, and one of a kind conversations. I would say it's worth it just for that. So I want to tell everyone,
I think so too, actually. That's one of
I
my
mean,
favorite
if
things.
you want to know what to say,
Yeah. Yeah.
you're going to have all kinds of ideas. It's going to help you relieve stress and just pick one of Alyssa's and see
Yeah,
if it works.
exactly. And actually it really is helpful, especially on something like Bumble where it is up to the woman to reach out first. And that's great, but when you're doing it over and over again, it does sort of, you don't want to get exhausted by it. So if you have this list of things, suggestions of what to write, to start a conversation. It just makes it a lot easier for you.
Okay, I love tip number 4. This is hilarious. Tip number 4 is ask the other person out.
Mhm.
And you write on in your article here, you're not on the apps to find a pen pal. You're on here to find a lasting relationship. So what you're saying, you were saying it earlier, is you got to get to the date. And
Yeah.
how do you best do that?
Yeah, it's really interesting after doing this for 8 years, what I've found is that there's this funny sort of phenomenon that happens with online dating when people are, it doesn't matter if you've been doing it for years or you just started doing it. People think they need to have like a full-on conversation for a week on the app, back and forth, before they actually somebody asks somebody out. And I'm not really sure why people feel that way, but it's really easy to get stuck on the messaging on the apps. And what I always say is like I think both parties are kind of like waiting for something spontaneously to just like the date's just going to happen. They just each waiting for the other person to make the move or something. But really ultimately you do not want to be messaging back and forth because it creates a false sense of intimacy first of all. You feel like you know the person already, and you don't, frankly. You cannot know somebody by texting with them. You just simply can't. So you message back and forth for a week or two. I've heard of people messaging for weeks on end before actually getting to a date. So that is a big no-no for me in my coaching. I say get to actually either a phone call, a FaceTime or Zoom call, or an in-person, ideally in person.
Totally, because when you're texting, you are not getting an accurate picture. You have so much time to think about what you want to say. It's not as authentic as a phone call, even, or a Zoom
Mhm.
call, or the best one in person. And I think a lot of times you could get turned off, or the other person could get turned off by the text and go, well, that was kind of weird. Okay, this guy's a weirdo. I'm not taking this any further.
Yeah, yeah,
So
exactly. You could
it
misread
can
one
get
of their texts or, yeah, like misread the intent behind it. Maybe it sounds too sarcastic and they didn't really mean it that way. All of those things. But also, really, what I mostly see is a fantasy version of the person formed. And then when they meet the person for in real life, they're almost always disappointed. So it's really good to just get to the in-person date and that can just be a quick coffee. It can be a coffee or a drink after work. Does not have to be a 2-hour dinner. And that's actually my suggestion is it should just be something for the first date, it should just be basically a meet and greet. And then the second date is where you should go to dinner, is when you should go to dinner.
Absolutely, and my favorite story is how I met a guy online once, and he goes, "Okay, let's meet at Starbucks." So I was automatically thinking, "Well, he doesn't really think I'm cute enough to invest in dinner, but that's fine, I'll meet him at Starbucks." And I was sitting there, and he walks in, and he's like, "Hey, nice to meet you. Come on, I don't even drink coffee. Let's go out for dinner." And I was like, "Yes, this guy, like, really."
Oh, that's funny.
But then
Yeah,
he ended
that's
up dating, like, 4 or 5 girls at the same time as me, and I ran into him, and I was like, "Oh, I think we want different things," and that was the end.
oh, okay.
I
That's
think he's still
tough.
single. He was so cute, and I actually saw him, believe it or not, when I went to take pictures for my daughter's homecoming, and he
Mm.
was there with his daughter, and I was like, "Oh my gosh." I hadn't seen him in, like, 15 years.
Oh, that's really
As
funny.
cute as ever.
That's funny. Yeah. No,
Okay.
yeah, and I think that's actually unusual what happened with you. I think, but it's interesting because I do hear women say that. They're like, "Oh, he just suggested a coffee. That must mean he's not that interested." No, it means that he maybe has a dating coach who told him not to do that. It's like,
It's very smart actually, because it doesn't put a lot of pressure to sit with somebody for 2 hours when you can't wait for the check to come because you can't
yeah,
wait to get out of the restaurant.
yeah,
What good is that?
exactly.
Then you're spending all this money for no reason.
Right, right, exactly. Yeah. And for men, that is a big deal because if they're paying for the majority of the dates, they don't want to be going out to dinner on their first date. you know.
And Alyssa, I don't know about you. I mean, I know you're in New York, I'm in Chicago, but if you go out to dinner now, it's
Oh,
minimally $100 a person.
oh yeah,
Go
it's
anywhere.
here. It's yeah, yeah,
Well, not 100 a person. It's like if you go out with 2 people, your bill's gonna be over $100 no matter what.
yeah. That's true.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, number 5, final tip is be open-minded. Sounds generic, but why is this so important?
Yeah, this is a big one because so many people get so stuck in their usual type. And I'm not talking about saying you should settle for someone you're not attracted to. This is not what this is. This means being open to meeting somebody in person who maybe you're not wowed by their profile, but there's something there. There's something that makes you feel like, oh, maybe, you never know. Being open to that. I think what people have gotten so stuck on with online dating is, their height and what they do for a job and all these superficial things. And I can tell you, all of my success stories are almost identical, and my own included, which is that it was who you saw somebody online who didn't wow you. Like with my partner, his profile was sort of so-so. He had one really great picture, his first picture, and then the rest of it was sort of boring. And I think that happens with all of my success stories is, well, their profile wasn't anything that great, but and then we met in person and they were just, they were really funny and really nice and really kind. I didn't have sparks right away, but we went out on a second date. And then sometimes it's the second or third or the fourth date even where the chemistry evolves. So it's really based on what I say to my clients, it should be almost feel like someone you want to be friends with, and that's really what it should be based on. And I mean, most relationships don't start the long-term relationships, I should say, don't start with major fireworks flying like on the first date. It's pretty rare actually, I think that those are the long-term relationships. I think those are the flings. So, I think that if more people followed that advice, I think that they would be surprised after a date. I mean, even one of my coaches on my team, she was dating this guy and she was kind of like, he's really nice, but I don't know. And she kept going out with him, and it took her 5 dates before she felt chemistry, and now they're getting married this summer. So
Well, I also think it has a lot to do with you, like, not you, Alyssa, but like in this girl's example, maybe she was, you don't have to tell me, but like newly divorced or hadn't dated that much. It has a lot to do with where we are in our own lives. And sometimes maybe she had her guard up. Maybe she wasn't really ready. And it's so much more about us a lot of times than what we think. You could meet the perfect person, but if you're not in the right space and you don't have the right mindset, you're not even going to look at him. You're just going to be like, ew. I mean, how many times do we look back and go, I really missed out on that guy because I was really messed up myself. I wasn't in a good place. I was
Mhm.
still thinking about somebody else. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
actually, in my book, Who Let the Dogs Out, where I tell my dating after divorce stories,
Mhm.
this one guy, and all I said to sum it up, worst timing ever. I mean, I had just gotten out of a really long-term relationship. I went out with this guy. I couldn't really give him a fair chance because I was still thinking about this other guy. Got back together with the other guy, and then after we broke up, I realized, like, that was a great guy who I just wasn't in the right frame of mind.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
I met him at another times. But wait, I wanna tell my listeners in your article that you wrote about this, you wrote, "At the end of the date, ask yourself 2 things. Number 1, can I be friends with this person? Number 2, would I like to see them one more time?" And are you saying that if you say yes to one or both, you should continue to date the person?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I think that the main thing is you don't need to decide if they're your soulmate on the first date. You just need to decide if you wanna spend another 2 hours with them for a second
I
date.
love this. That's the best advice.
Yeah,
Think
it is
about it
because I
because
think people get so caught up in is it my soulmate? Is it the one? Could I see myself married to this person? Could I see them being the stepfather to my children? Your mind gets away with you and you're getting ahead of yourself. So really all you need to decide is, do I want to see this person another time?
Best advice, Alyssa. And when it comes down to it, being friends with somebody and liking the person and trusting them is the most important thing in any relationship. I mean, I'm not a relationship expert, but I can tell you after failing at dozens of relationships and then finally finding the right person, that is your advice is 100% correct.
Yeah, yeah. And I think also, something to think about is I think, you know, what a lot of us have been programmed to feel in, especially women, in our generation, you're programmed to sort of almost want the person that doesn't want you. And you're like, you want that sort of, anxiety feeling of like, oh no, did it go well? Does he like me? I think a lot of us are programmed to think that that's normal, and that's not actually normal.
Right, and how about like, "Oh, he's too into me, he's too nice." That's a good
Exactly.
thing.
Exactly.
So that's
Yep.
you were allowed to do that in your 20s. Now that's it. Even in your
Yeah.
30s is okay, but if you're over 40, you're not allowed to do that anymore. You have to
Yeah, no, I mean,
out,
forget about the bad boy thing. I mean, that is just
right?
no,
And
no,
love yourself
no.
enough to say, "I deserve this person to be too into me. I deserve that." Get comfortable with it. Don't say it makes me uncomfortable. Get comfortable with it because that's
Yes.
how your relationship is gonna last forever.
Yes, it's true. It's true. And
Oh
I
my
think,
gosh.
yeah,
Were you gonna say
I
something?
was gonna say, if you're not used to that feeling, it does feel foreign. And I think it feels like you want to push the person away. So,
I
yeah.
know. Oh my gosh, Alyssa, you give the best advice. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you. I love it.
I want to tell my listeners again, go to stylemyprofile.nyc.com to find Alyssa. You get 15% off of her DIY profile kit. Just use the code DGS15. But also, if you want to work with Alyssa, you can set up a private coaching session or sessions. So thank you again, Alyssa. And I want to tell my listeners you
Um,
can also find Alyssa in the trusted professional section of Divorced Girl Smiling at divorcedgirlsmiling.com. You can also go there to listen to more podcasts, read articles, or sign up for my free consult where I listen to your story for 30 minutes or so and then make recommendations on what professionals would help you get the best possible divorce outcome and post divorce life. So thank you so much for listening, everybody. We'll talk to you real soon.